So I'm going to throw this at you. There are some genetic and gender realities that seem unfair to me.
Oh, here
You're
we go.
driving on the freeway. You're driving on the freeway. Be totally honest. If a skinny guy is in a car eating, he's got burgers. You're thinking to yourself, that guy's on the go. He doesn't have time to stop. That guy is a hustler. He is making things happen.
Okay.
A heavy set guy in a car is eating burgers. You're like, and I am too. Oh, really? You can't even drive without eating? I mean, give me a break. Like what? What you can't pull over. You have to. We have no idea about those two people. That is how people view weight. We're all weightists at times.
Okay.
Gender,
Yeah. I'm not. I'm
gender.
not. I'm not saying no to your premise here, Colin. I can't.
Okay.
I love your analogies. Go ahead. I'll never refute
Here's
you.
a here's a gender reality.
Okay.
Men can hate each other. Jordan still holds a grudge against Isaiah. Somehow it makes him more likable.
Yeah.
Men can taunt, can trash talk. If Angel Reese appears to hate Caitlin Clark, it becomes a race topic. It is outrageous. It is unfair. And I'm like, time out. Women athletes can hate rivals too. It's not, to me, I'm like, is it race? Well, hate it used to be a commodity. Like you loved when the Ryder Cup. We hated the Euros. Now everybody's rich. But the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese rivalry, one got the best of the other in college the junior year. The other one got the best the senior year. One goes Midwest small city. One goes big city. One gets more press. I look at it and I think it doesn't bother me that Angel Reese doesn't like Caitlin. Like by the way, Caitlin's game is fun and flashy. Angel's a rebounder. Like they're probably got a little built-in animosity. She won't get the press.
I think it's the worst story in sports media. I hate the discourse around it. I think it brings out the worst in everybody. I really do think it's just a lot of people are showing their ass on this story. Um, of course, what you just said is correct. One of my things, it's a trope, it's a cliche that I like the turn of phrase that I created. Less hate in the world, more hate in sports.
Yes.
Sports hate is good. It is objectively good. Now, when it leads to like fights in the stands, okay, fine, someone took it too far. But that doesn't mean that it is a bad thing. Trash talk, rivalries, bulletin board material, lobbying shots in the press, hard fouls, stare downs, the occasional fight. Those things are good. They're good for ratings. They're good for business. They're good for fan interest. They're good for jersey sales. They are good. It is good for the WNBA for there to be sports hate, for there to be
Yes.
rivalries. It is a
Yes.
good thing. That is so objectively, obviously true that I can't believe anyone even dares to deny it. I do think the Bird Magic stuff is a little ridiculous because Bird and Magic, in terms of talents, were kind of equals.
Yes. Yes.
This is more like Michael Jordan and Bill Laimbeer. Like, they were rivals.
That's where it ended.
But they're not really the same type of player, right? They hated each
Right.
other. They had great moments, but they were not like, no one was like, you know who carried the NBA to popularity? Michael Jordan and Bill Laimbeer. It was not
Right.
not how we describe
Yeah.
it. Like Caitlin Clark is the phenomenon. She's the comet. And like,
Yes.
does that spur jealousy? No doubt. Are there interesting racial components to that story that I think are fair to be discussed for a league that has had great players, white and black, before Caitlin Clark? Why haven't they caught on in the same type of way? Like, I think that there is like fair conversations to be had there. But like a hard foul by Angel Reese in a basketball game that like didn't even result in a fight. It resulted in she said the F word. Like, what the hell is the matter with people?
I
Like,
know.
I mean, it's embarrassing. Like, and the we don't need to name the names. Everyone knows the discourse of who's going. Like, you're talking about people's wives and you're making it personal and then you're bringing all the, like, just shut up. Shut up. It's so beneath the industry to like take the discourse of online. You are amazing at not being too online. I give you a ton of credit for it. Nick Wright, it's amazing how he doesn't read his mentions. I still am addicted to my phone. I still read my mentions. I have gotten much better about not letting it bother me and not responding. But it is so very clear that way too many people in our industry formulate their opinions based on the algorithm that they see on X. And it's just complete horseshit. Like, I don't believe that people that go to that basketball game left being like, whew, you know what that was? A race war. Like, it was a basketball. I'm not like, it's crazy. And I'm not the biggest WNBA fan. I'm not claiming to have WNBA bona fides or like watching for years or like going 10 deep on all of the rosters. So people are like, Parkins, I don't give a shit about your WNBA takes. That's fine. I just know sports and narratives. That is a good thing for business. And people taking their online commentary that is designed to divide us and then making it actually like inform their sports opinions on television when they are multi-millionaire former professional athletes. They don't even realize what they're doing, but it's just very embarrassing. I really do find it embarrassing.
Sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. Yeah, it's my take on Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese from the beginning is the league was growing, but she's Taylor Swift in tennis shoes. She's not, doesn't have to be the best player in the league. Taylor Swift doesn't have the best voice. Adele does. Like she doesn't have the best voice.
Sure.
There's some visceral connection between young women, middle-aged women, and Taylor Swift that I can't explain. I'm usually good at listening to music or watching sports and going, that's a superstar. I didn't see it with Taylor Swift. There's been Lady Gaga I connected. There have been a lot of artists. Adele.
You a Katy Perry guy?
Time I heard, when I heard Katy Perry, but like Adele. When I heard Adele, I was like, holy shit, what is that? That's crazy.
Sure.
Lady Gaga did that to me. I remember Garth Brooks years and years ago hearing him and going, it was like new country. It wasn't like, old and my dog and my porch. It was like cool country. And I'm like, Shania Twain. I'm usually pretty good at spotting stuff and going bang. The Taylor Swift up, I can't even explain it now. She got a nice voice. She's really smart, but I can't explain it. Caitlin Clark's not that hard to explain. Holy shit, she's taking shots.
Yeah, of course.
Some NBA players wouldn't take.
Of course.
I said she's Steph Curry plus Jason Kidd. The 60-foot passes, the 30-foot bombs. You're like, half the NBA would not make those plays. She's a comet because it doesn't look like anything else.
Right, of course. If a player in 5 years started dunking like Anthony Edwards, like we'd be like, "Oh my God, it's unbelievable!" Because we haven't seen it in the WNBA, right? So yeah, I think that part of it is also very obvious. She's the Steph Curryization of basketball has hit women's basketball in a way and at a moment, and you and I have talked about this months ago now. Like, listen, part of this is ESPN, which the world is changing, cable is changing, fine. It is still the behemoth of sports television. They promote the shit out of it.
Yeah.
That helps. Like, real talented analysts, real talented broadcasters, they're not on ESPN News. Like, they're in good time slots on good networks, on ABC, on ESPN, in prime time, on weeknights with a real pregame show and a real postgame show and a real play-by-play guy. And they do a good job on college hoops. And so, like, they're invested in it. And it's a cyclical thing. And they hit this phenomenon. Like, the fact that game that was a blowout outrated Yankees Red Sox, that matters. Like, that matters. And so I mean, all the respect in the world to her talent, all the respect in the world to like people who have been WNBA fans for forever and have been like now get to say I told you so. But I wish our media colleagues realized a little bit better that they were being played by the algorithm because they're all athletes. They can't possibly be offended by that foul. They can't, it's impossible that a bunch of football players were so offended by that foul that they had to make this big of a deal out of it. So eventually they'll need to talk about the basketball. And I think for some people, it's just easier to culture war everything. And I think it's unfortunate.
Okay, I want to bring this up. We can close on this because I saw this today. It's fascinating. So, a university professor in finance looked up the value of Caitlin Clark for the WNBA. This is insane. So, this year, last season in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark was 26.5% of all economic activity as a rookie on the worst team in the league when she entered it. So now she has an 8-year, $128 million deal with Nike. So, she's going to eat. Merchandise in the league went up off a rookie from a Midwest-based school on the worst team in the league, 234%. But here was the one that struck me. So before she got there, the Indiana Fever, the valuation of the franchise was $90 million. Remember, they play a short season. It's not like the NBA where it lasts like 6 months. After playing, 40 games, the valuation of that team now is $340 million. She is almost...
That's what NBA teams were selling for 10 years ago.
She has quadrupled the value. And I was talking, I was with a group of friends tonight at dinner, and people that didn't know the WNBA were like asking, well, why? Like, what does she do? And we said, well, she makes passes and takes shots that nobody else in the sport does. So she's a bit of it's like when Tiger Woods came on the tour, like he drove it further. Long putting was better. He looked like a football player in the red shirts. Like he just was different than every other golfer you grew up with. And people like unique and different. Here, my question to you is, there's still no other, like somebody said at the party, well, there'll be another Caitlin Clark. And I'm like, well, there's not another Steph Curry. Like there's guys that can shoot threes. I don't think it's a game you duplicate. And listen, let's just be honest. There are more great male athletes in the world than female athletes. There is no second Steph Curry. There is no other player that plays like that. My take is she could be $1 billion athlete. Like, are you surprised by it? Like when I see these numbers, I'm like, oh, this is Tiger in the tour. This isn't even Jordan. This is totally different.
Well, I think when you look at basketball, there are two real kind of like ultimate show type of athletes that you see, meaning like must-see television. And it's the supreme vertical athlete, which think like young LeBron or kind of like Anthony Edwards now.
Dominique was for a while, yeah.
Like the guy that does stuff in the air that is unlike anything you see anywhere else in the world.
Dr. J, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the second piece of it is just unbelievable shot making. Those are the two things. Those are the two things that like really bring eyes to television. To take it a step further, there are two types of basketball players that I think are far and away the most winning impact in the current game of basketball. It's the big, strong playmaker. Think LeBron, Luka, Jokic. And it's the indomitable shooter, which there's really only been Steph. I think those two types of players are the players that give you the best chances to win basketball games in the modern world. Now, what makes it fascinating to me, because that's what Caitlin Clark is. She's a different type of player, and she can do a lot of different types of things, but she's essentially bringing a Steph Curry-like basketball impact to the WNBA. It's really this simple. If you can shoot the way that she shoots, or the way Steph shoots, and you can perpetually be in motion, running around, inevitably there is an overreaction to your shooting ability. And we see this all the time with Caitlin. Just like you're going to see Aaliyah Boston get nonstop easy buckets in the mid range or rolling to the basket because every time she sets a screen for Caitlin, her defender is stepping up to guard Caitlin. Because as she comes off of that screen, if you're not there, she's going to shoot it and she's going to make it. And so there's a reaction that inverts spacing and brings a 4-on-3 because you bring multiple defenders away from the rim. There's a 4-on-3 with a vacated paint. And because of that, there's a lot of easy opportunities to score there. Like that's the thing with Steph Curry. Like Steph Curry is not the same shot maker that he was 4 years ago in 2021. But just the simple threat of him running around gives the Warriors a chance to score. And that's the thing, like Caitlin hasn't even really started hitting shots yet this year the way that she's capable of, but everyone knows she can and they guard her in that fashion. And so to me, it's kind of like a proof of concept in that if you can shoot and you can run around the way that Steph does and you can strike fear into a defense in that way, the trickle-down effects with the way that defenses guard you just make everything so much easier for her. And like you could argue she's already the best offensive engine in the WNBA, and she's literally a second-year player. And she still has so much room to improve. Like she still struggles with ball pressure. She turned the ball over too much against the Liberty the other night. She still has a little bit of an issue where she kind of crossfires across her face, which makes it so she can only shoot going left. She needs to build it out so that she can shoot running to her right as well. But like judging by her psycho competitive attitude, she's probably going to figure that stuff out in the next year or two, and then she'll be the best player in the league. And so like to me, it's just she fits the mold of one of the most impactful types of basketball players you can be today, which is the deadly movement shooter. If you're a deadly movement shooter, it just opens up so many things for an offense. And honestly, I think she's must-see television, Colin. I've watched all 4 of her games, and I'm in my busy season. Like, you'd think I'd be taking a break. But my wife said to me the other day, she's like, "You're watching more basketball?" I'm like, "It's Caitlin Clark. We're watching more basketball. Come over here. Let's watch this." Like, she's incredible.
Sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. And she doesn't always get the consistent great star whistle. I think they're still kind of figuring out how to officiate her, right? Like I've said this for years when I covered Shaq and went to Shaq got fouled more than anybody I've ever seen. I mean, it was insane. People bounced off Shaq. Jokic complains constantly, like people are bouncing off me. She doesn't quite get as favorable a whistle as you think. So I think
neither does Steph too. That's the funny part.
Well, and I think I will give the WNBA credit. They just didn't understand the tsunami of her popularity. Like they didn't get the schedule, and you don't know what you don't know. They've done a much better job. All her games are on television. Every time I turn on every time I see a promotion for the WNBA, it's Caitlin Clark. So but I do think there's a process on, you're an official. You don't want to give her too favorable a whistle because the players in the league all resent her to some degree. She's getting all this attention. And I will say this. I've defended the WNBA with this. Baseball and the WNBA feel ignored. The NFL and the NBA and college football, they get a lot of press. And baseball always feels like, hey, we're America's pastime. So they're very insular, sometimes very provincial. And the WNBA similarly, you don't pay attention to us. So there's part of it like I get. Like they sort of resent this one player. Nobody talks WNBA. They do, and it's all her. I remember when Tiger was 18, 19, 20 years old coming onto the tour, there were a lot of people in golf that were like, could you talk on your sportscast about anybody other than Tiger Woods? So she's not. Bryce Harper came into baseball. He fought with an own teammate in the dugout because it was like, oh, everybody wants to talk to. So I do defend the WNBA is that I get if nobody paid attention to you for 26 years and now they do, and they feign interest in the rest of the league. What we all care about is Caitlin. So the animosity built up by players, I give it a little bit of a pass. I think people are spending too much time on race. It is what it is. There's a million platforms, a million opinions. But I don't know. My take is they're still in the adjustment period with Caitlin. How to market, how to promote, how to officiate, how to defend, and it's just fluid. That's what it feels like to me.
I think that like when I see the complaining, like I saw some players complain and some members of the media complain that she was on TV so much. And let's just take fairness and just put it to the side for a minute. Like even with Nike and giving Caitlin a shoe, like set that aside for a minute and just focus on her being on television. Okay. Her being on television brought my eyes to it. I didn't watch the WNBA. I have grown to really enjoy watching WNBA basketball, even when she's not on. And they're like Nafisa Collier became one of my favorite basketball players watching her in the finals run last year. And what brought me to the television was Caitlin. So like, let's say that the league came out and they're like, every Caitlin Clark game's on national television. Like, that's just what we're going to do. Deal with it. That would be genius because the best way you can market the other WNBA players is to have them play against Caitlin Clark because we'll all be watching. Okay, well, no one's covering the rest of the league. Okay, but if you put Caitlin on television and you get more people to watch, it will create more WNBA fans. And we live in the most Colin, I started making NBA content out of my guest bedroom. Okay. You create a bunch of WNBA fans, passionate members of the media will originate from that mass and will cover the league better. And overall, the league will gain in popularity and gain in impact. And it will become a momentous thing that carries forward and actually does shine a big flashlight on the rest of the WNBA. Caitlin Clark is the vehicle with which to microwave that, to accelerate it, and to move it into a fast track towards what could be a bright future for the WNBA. It's great basketball. It's genuinely great basketball. She's the best vehicle with which to elevate the sport. I think anything they can do to put her on TV and promote her is the best thing they could do for the sport.
Yeah, it's Conor McGregor UFC. You know, you knew it existed. You'd seen fights. You started buying pay-per-view cards and sitting through 2.5 hours to get to his fight. And then all of a sudden you found yourself a year later hooked on 2 other fighters because Dana White would put the second most popular fighter in the undercards.
Exactly.
So all of a sudden it's John Jones into Conor McGregor. And then it's just basic marketing. And I've said before, I do think the WNBA, women's basketball, and I said this years ago on FS1, probably 5 years ago, the sport was getting better. The women were, several generations of women were encouraged to play basketball and to be athletes, and nutritionists came into the sport and better trainers. There was money in the league, so they had better training, and the players were getting better. But it takes this. Listen, it took Magic and Bird in the NBA to take a league. There were some financial problems, so it's not like a gender issue. I think Conor McGregor's erosion as a fighter has hurt UFC. It doesn't feel as urgent, and that's already established. And we all know that Michael Jordan left once Magic, Bird, and Michael had driven the league up. Michael left, the ratings dropped 50%. So this stuff outside of the NFL, it's all cyclical. It's all market-based. It's all star-based. And it's just the WNBA, was waiting for its first tiger. And golf's probably had 4 in my life. Jack Nicholson, Arnold Palmer, Tiger. I think Rory's got a little bit of it, Phil Mickelson. So the history of golf, modern history's got like 5 guys that have done it. So there's no reason to be defensive about it. It's all these leagues, they all eventually, look at boxing. Ali took it from whatever it was to the next level. Then there were Sugar Ray Leonard and Hagler. But when Larry Holmes arrived, nobody wanted to watch Larry Holmes. It took an old George Foreman selling a grill that you bake chicken on or cook chicken on literally to get the casual back into boxing was George Foreman's second tour. So this is the way sports works outside of football.
The cyclical thing is so fascinating because that's literally what the NBA is about to go through. LeBron and Steph won 8 titles in 11 years, and now there's not really a big name yet. Now you could argue that the parity might prevent the rise of a star, and that's a separate conversation for another day, but it is really fascinating. We're in one of those cycles right now with the NBA. The old guard's going out. There's a new guard coming up.
So this is something I thought about. Years and years ago, this may have been 15 years ago, sports fans, I think, are more savvy today than ever. And a lot of it's just because of the explosion of social media, and you can learn things just watching TikTok. I mean, I use the TikTok store every day. And by the way, it's never let me down. I buy power bars, I buy workout gear. It's never let me down. The TikTok store is completely undervalued. You'd think
that's amazing.
Yeah, the first time I used it, I'm like, sketchy. I'm probably getting robbed. It's $24. It's fantastic. Everything I buy in the TikTok store is amazing. That's not an ad. I bought power bars today. So, but I was thinking years ago, I did a topic where I said, this is when I would take calls. I was only doing a radio show. I said, you guys don't understand. Madonna was in her prime. I said, is much more well known than Derek Jeter in his prime. It's not close. One's a global star. I got 30 calls in a row. No way. Derek. Yeah. I'm like, Derek, the brand of the Yankees is bigger than Derek Jeter. Like Derek Jeter's not if he played in Kansas City, he'd just be an all-star. Sports fans, they struggle sometimes with like recognizing that nobody knows who Jalen Hurts is out of America unless you're a sports fan. Your sister who doesn't love sports doesn't know who Jalen Hurts is, even after the Super Bowl. She's heard of maybe the tush push, but that's about it. And I was thinking about this. How many NBA players, and I know Caitlin Clark is an athlete, but she's like beyond that now. She kind of transcends sports. She's like, it's racial, it's political, it's polarizing, it's a lot of things.
Yes. How
many NBA players are more famous than Caitlin Clark? LeBron, Steph, absolutely.
Maybe Durant.
That's what I put. I wrote down KD maybe. Yeah. In 1 year, out of women's basketball, for a horrible team when she arrived, outside of LeBron and Steph, she is the most well-known basketball player currently playing in the United States.
Oh, yes. And I don't think that's close. Like, I think I might have said this to you last year, that I thought the most famous basketball player under 30 was Caitlin Clark. And it's, like you said, I don't think it's particularly close. Like, she is demonstrably and inarguably more famous than all of this generation's NBA stars. She just is. Like, it really, yeah. LeBron is, I don't know, probably one of the 20 most famous people in the world. At a secondary level, there is Steph, and at a far different level, there is Durant. And the next basketball person, like active basketball person, is Caitlin Clark. Like I don't think that's a hot take. I don't think that's controversial. I think that's just obvious. And I think that it is awesome for the sport. And I think that it is awesome for sports fans. And it is what I think some people need to be okay. Like, this is apples and oranges, but not exactly. And this is not a fair comparison, but just the audience is smart. They'll figure it out. I think it's probable that LaMelo Ball is more famous than Tyrese Halliburton. No one with a brain thinks he's better than Tyrese Halliburton.
But he is more famous.
You agree. So I think sometimes, like, diehard WNBA or women's basketball fans conflate the discussion about fame and popularity with a ranking of players' quality. Now, Caitlin Clark is, to me, I mean, she was first team all WNBA last year. She has a legitimate argument that she's a top 5 player in the league, and before this injury, probably was going to make a real case to win league MVP this year. But if someone's like, hey, I have WNBA League Pass, I watch the whole league I have for years, I think she is currently the 7th best player in the league, I'd listen to him. Like, okay, maybe, like, you know, Breanna Stewart, Asia Wilson, like, whomever. But that's not the discussion. Now, it is also important that your fame not lap your ability. Again, not to, like, I'm just thinking because we're talking women's sports. An example of that to me would be like, this will make me feel old, but Anna Kournikova. Remember, so she was at a time the most famous women's tennis player, and I think she was during a lot of that time not one of the 20 best. She was more famous, far more famous than she was successful. But it's quite often that your fame lags your ability, as I think happens to Nikola Jokic, as an example. And it is also often that your fame, is a few steps ahead of your ability. When it is a supernova moment is when when you are the most famous and you're the best. Like that that was LeBron with the NBA, obviously Jordan, Kobe, at least was close to the best, if not the best for a brief period. And it's what is going to happen, I believe, with Caitlin Clark. Because I do think she will have a period where she is clearly the best player in the league. And again, it could happen sooner than later. But it is so great for the sport because she is someone that people show up to the party because of her. And where I give the evolution of the WNBA and women's basketball credit is, I think people show up to the party, whether it was for the women's NCAA tournament or the WNBA, and they're like, oh, this party's pretty good. Yeah. I like it. There's a level of physicality in this sport that isn't necessarily in the NBA anymore.
Oh, it's always been chippier because they're not vertical. So they're banging into each other, and it's a very physical league.
Exactly right. And so I think that if you have a good product and your biggest hurdle is getting people to sample the product, she's a godsend. There's no denying it. And again, there's a lot of complicated components to it. But just because something has complicated components doesn't mean every discussion about it has to be complicated. And you can just be like, she is a supernova a level of fame with one-of-a-kind talent, and it is game-changing for the entire league that she's at.
Sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. Well, and also she had a rivalry with a star college player in college, so we have a visceral connection, which college basketball no longer gives you. It's what college football gives you all the time. Where, J.J. McCarthy, you're like, oh, I mean, you see all these Buckeyes and Michigan Wolverines. Yeah. When I think J.J. McCarthy, I think Michigan. Okay. Caitlin Clark, obviously a huge story and the controversy around it. And I was pretty hard on the WNBA when Caitlin Clark came in. And I thought, guys, you can't open up with the New York Liberty and the Connecticut Sun. You want to groove her into some wins. Because remember, she went from the Final Four into camp, into playing. And the WNBA, they probably knew she would be good. They didn't think she'd quite be this good.
Sure.
But it's getting to be a little bit like MJ. And they've done a better job this year. They had an easier schedule. They've put the games on television. So the WNBA took a lot of heat. And Val Ackerman, the commissioner's like, okay, we got ourselves a complete Taylor Swift in tennis shoes rock star. And they've done a much better job this year. The officiating's not great, but the league's now just starting to make real money now, right? Like, so it's the officials, maybe the last part, it's...
Well, yeah, I wonder with it, and I don't know, I'm not educated enough on this about what the hierarchy of officiating is, but obviously the best basketball officials in the world
are in the NBA.
To officiate in the NBA.
Right.
I shouldn't say the world, let's just do the U.S. I assume the second best are like men's college basketball.
Well, yeah.
I would imagine the third best might be women's college basketball, because up until recently, that was a far bigger industry than the WNBA. Like, so has and again, I am just speculating here, but is the WNBA simply not picking from the people who are the best officials are like, well, it's way better jobs in officiating that I can get.
Listen,
so I assume that's going to be the case.
They flew commercial airlines a year ago.
And I think some still
the
do,
NBA moved out of that in like the 80s. So it's like it's just a different ball game. But I was thinking about this. Most of the time the media gets it right when it predicts an all-time star. In fact, I would argue, and I think people listening to this would push back, that we undersold Tiger. Nobody thought Tiger was going to have the lowest scoring average ever, was going to have the tied for the most career wins ever, has the greatest earnings ever. Nobody, not even Nike would have guessed that.
And within 5 years, have the scoring record at all 4 majors.
I mean, the Tiger Slam.
The Tiger Slam. Yeah. No.
Okay.
You're right. Tiger, Serena, LeBron. I would argue all the all-time greats that turned into all-time greats also actually kind of exceeded expectations.
Sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. Most of the time, I think Bryce Harper at 16 was considered arguably the best baseball prospect ever. He's turned out 8-time All-Star, 2-time National League MVP, 340 home runs plus. That is if you would have said that when he was 16 on Sports Illustrated, he's going to be an 8-time All-Star, 2-time MVP, you'd be like, yeah, for the best prospect ever, that's in that elite class. Sure. But I think Caitlin Clark, LeBron and MJ, I think they're better. And I thought Caitlin was going to be good. But Gino Auriemma, UConn's coach, came out and said, and this guy knows basketball. He's the best recruiter in the history of the sport. He's like, this idea she's going to walk into the WNBA and crush people.
But it was here's the thing. All the UConn folks had like the legendary UConn players who were then in media, and then Gino, they all kind of, in my opinion, had a bias of, man, this was supposed to be what everyone was saying about Paige Beckers a year ago, but Paige had blown out her knee and she missed time and all of that. And so I think that they also underestimated what a badass Clark was going to be. Yeah. And I think they also looked at it and said, well, she's great and going to be great, but she's not better than Breanna Stewart or Diana Taurasi, and they, if they had a transition, she will too. And the answer is, she is already one of the 4 best players in the league. Oh, yeah. She is already an absolute, and I say this in the kindest words, an asshole on the court. Yeah. Like the way you kind of need to, you don't need to be, but it's something people historically like in their athletes, like a trash Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, a trash talker, hard ass. And she is already impacting winning. I think she has the best per game plus minus in the league of everyone that's not on the New York Liberty.
Think about this.
Crushing people.
10 years ago. So the quality of WNBA play in the last 10 years has improved more than any league anywhere. The players the nutrition's better, the strength is better. You go YouTube and WNBA game 10 years ago. They did not pass like this. Candace Parker 10 years ago led the league in assists at 5.5 a game. A game. Not only is Caitlin Clark the best shooter, the best guard, the most influential, she's also dealing 9 assists per game. So what she's done is she's really changed the tempo. She's doubling these all-time assist numbers or close to it and giving you threes and shooting 9 feet beyond the arc. So, I mean, as much as I liked her and I thought she would be really good, I remember saying on the air, she's going to be really good, top 10 player really fast. I didn't think she'd be this.
No, I agree with you that I do think she is, and in contributing to winning, exceeding expectations. I also think that, and maybe eventually we'll get there, but there so much in my and I don't know what you said on the air about this today because I missed it, but so much of the social media pearl clutching of basically we need to protect Caitlin Clark. I just think it's I think it's patronizing, and I also think it fails to recognize this is, in my opinion, the best case scenario for the league. The fact that she has this swagger, and Brew made this point, and I thought it was a really good one. The fact that yesterday's altercations primarily happened with Caitlyn against other white players was actually a really nice thing.
Yeah.
Because it removed any of the bullshit like, oh, are the black players don't like her? No. You know who doesn't like Caitlin Clark?
Everybody.
Most of her opponents. you know who historically is not that popular in sports? The young, awesome, swaggery, trash-talking player. That player usually has allies on their team and their fans.
Larry
and
Bird got
Correct.
choked by Dr. J.
Right,
Everybody
exactly.
hated Larry.
Right, and so that's awesome. Here's another thing that's awesome. This is only going to make Caitlyn better and tougher and stronger.
Yes.
That's great. The fact that it is hard and that, because the idea, because some of Caitlyn's, like there is a real lunatic fringe on the internet about this conversation. And I hate doing in life, I don't actually really think both sides are a problem very often. In the Caitlin Clark thing, it is both sides. It is people on both ends of the spectrum are out of their minds. And the biggest Caitlin fans are like, the league, this is the league's cash cow. And if they're not suspending these other players, she could get hurt. Like, give me a break. It was a light shove. She fell down. She's going to be fine. The Fever are going to be in big games for a long time. She is sustainably drawing eyeballs. And I do think it is while people pointed out correctly, oh man, when she was out, the ratings dropped. The other piece of this is the ratings dropped, but were still higher than pre-Caitlin Clark WNBA, which means while, yes, some people are just showing up for her, some people showed up for her and were like, oh, I like basketball and this is a pretty good product. I'll stick around even if she's not there. At least some people did. It's the best thing imaginable for the league. It's the best thing imaginable for her. And it is for us, here in hockey ended last night, basketball probably ends tomorrow in the NBA. It'll be nice to have like a captivating sports story for the summer other than baseball, so I'm excited about it.